Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Ali and this here is Arnie, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about old age in chinchillas. Now before we get started, I just want to mention my hands. I decided to dye my hair purple yesterday, and for some reason, stupid me decided halfway through dyeing that I in fact didn't need the gloves I was wearing, and consequently I have in fact stained my hands purple. So yeah, if you see purple hands, I haven't got dirty hands, it's just they're stained a funny colour. So this video is about old age in chinchillas and what to expect as your chinchilla gets older. Now Arnie is one of my oldest chinchillas. He's nearly 15, he's 15 this year. What is an old age for a chinchilla? Well, this kind of is hotly debated around the world, because in some countries average lifespan for a chinchilla is between 15 to 20 plus years, and then in other countries the average lifespan for a chinchilla is 8 to 10. So we don't really know why there's such a difference in lifespan depending on where you live, because as I say, there's quite a discrepancy between how long they should live for. Now the majority of mine have always lived till late teens, so I'm hoping that Arnie has many more years with me yet. So I would say as a general rule, you might start to see a change in your chinchilla at around the 10-year mark. Now this is not to say that all chinchillas change behaviour and looks, because some chinchillas look exactly the same as they did as kids when they're 20 years old and behave the same way, and some don't. So this is just an idea for you of what to expect. So with a healthy chinchilla, regardless of age, the care isn't much different. They just need really good pellets and really good quality hay. There's no real need to give them supplements in any way. Sometimes probiotics can be helpful to a chinchilla though, and that is if your chinchilla is having diarrhea or is having constipation, probiotics can help because they can help regulate the bacteria in the digestive system. If your chinchilla is on antibiotics for any reason, probiotics, yes, are definitely helpful because they help us again rebalance the digestive system when they're on antibiotics, and if they're on other medication as well, it sometimes helps. As calcium can be used if your chinchilla is having a calcium deficiency. If they are, you can feed them alfalfa hay, or you can give them calcium supplements. What I'd say is though, chinchillas really do not need vitamin C supplements in their diet. They're not guinea pigs basically. Chinchillas, like a lot of other animals, can actually synthesize their own vitamin C, so it's incredibly rare for them to actually be deficient in it because their own bodies synthesize it themselves. Now animals that can't synthesize their own vitamin C include apes, which is me and you. Our bodies are not able to synthesize their own vitamin C, and the same with guinea pigs for some reason. Guinea pigs can't synthesize their own vitamin C. So in the case of guinea pigs, yes, it's probably a good idea to give them a vitamin C supplement if they're deficient in it. It's quite common for them to get deficient in vitamin C. Not common for a chinchilla at all. So that's my little rant on supplements. Okay, so what can you expect as your chinchilla gets older? Now, chinchilla's fur may well become a little more thin, a little less plush, and just overall not as good quality as it was when they were very young. They may actually get slightly thinner, so that's why it is really important to weigh them regularly to make sure they're not losing weight due to an illness. So if they're losing weight, you should always consult a vet really to find out if there's anything else going on with them. Now, common ailments that they can get as they get older are cataracts. Not all chinchillas will get them, but some chinchillas do get them with old age. And what cataracts look like, they look like a little spot of cloudiness or fogginess in the centre of the eye, and it can get bigger and bigger. If your chinchilla starts to develop cataracts, unfortunately there's not a whole lot you can do to relieve the situation. It's always worth going to your vet though if your chinchilla does develop cataracts, because it may be old age, or it also is a symptom. Cataracts are also a symptom of diabetes, so it's always worth getting your chinchilla checked out just to make sure they haven't got diabetes. But it can say cataracts can happen with chinchillas as they get older. If your chinchilla develops cataracts, the best thing to do is, if they've got a massive cage, you might want to consider downgrading the cage to a smaller cage, because obviously they're not going to be able to see as well as they used to. Or if you have them in a cage, make sure there's plenty of ledges for them to actually break their fall if they were to fall and injure themselves. Also, try not to rearrange the cage too much. Try to keep it exactly the same the whole time, because a chinchilla has to get used to how their cage is set out if they can't see as well. So they're all things that positive things you can do to help your chinchilla if your chinchilla does suffer from cataracts. Second thing your chinchilla can get is they can start to develop dental problems. Now, this sometimes as they get older, they chew less or they chew more irregularly, and this can cause the chinchilla's teeth to overgrow. Signs that your chinchilla may be having teeth issues is, first of all, weight loss, because if your chinchilla can't eat properly, then they're going to lose weight. Second of all is if you see lots and lots of crumbled up pellets at the bottom of your cage, that is a sign that they're maybe not eating in the best way they can. They can't actually chew their pellets. So like powdery and grinded up pellets at the bottom of their tray, that's a sign there could be something wrong there. If your chinchilla starts to get wet around the eyes and starts pouring at their mouth a lot, then that's another sign that they're like that. That's another sign that they may have dental issues. Also, if they start drooling, that's definitely a sign that they do have dental issues. Chinchilla's teeth should be dark orange. If they're pale and white, that could be a sign that there's health issues. If they're very light in colour, it could be that they're light in colour because they're not being able to eat properly, and therefore they're not being able to get the nutrients out of their food, and therefore that is causing a calcium deficiency in them. So yeah, these are all signs. Plus there's the obvious signs of your chinchillas in pain. Now, chinchillas do like to hide their pain extremely well because they are prey animals and they don't want to show that they're in pain. But if your chinchilla's hunched up, all the time, that's a sign they may be experience pain. If your chinchillas, when they're awake, their ears are always back like that, that could be and they're not alert, that could be a sign of pain. So yeah, not moving around a lot, that's another sign that they could be in pain. And finally, screaming and crying, that's obviously a really good indication that they're in pain. So yeah, all those things indicate that, yeah, your chinchilla might be in pain. It might be the result of dental issues. If your chinchilla does have dental issues, it could be a case that your chinchilla just needs to have their teeth ground down every so often from the vet, or in really bad circumstances, your chinchilla may need to be put to sleep. If your chinchilla is in a lot of pain all the time and has to have regular dental treatment, it may be at some point you have to think, actually, I'm going to have to put them to sleep, because at some point you have to weigh up the quality of their life that they're having. But that can happen as they get older. They can start to experience dental issues. Another thing they can start to have is arthritis. Now, there's many different forms of arthritis, but the general signs of arthritis are that they're not able to jump as far as they used to, or they're really hesitant about jumping and often miss where they're jumping. If they look stiff when they move, if they can't move their limbs, if they don't like running around as much, if they're putting their weight all on one leg or arm or limb, that's an indication that they may have arthritis. If they are limping, that may be an indication that they may have arthritis. Also, again, if they're in pain, and again, they do hide their pain well, but again, if they're hunched up, then that's a sign that something might be going on. If when they're out and about, their ears are back, that's a sign that they're in pain. Just generally not moving about as much. Sometimes they can't even dust bath correctly because they're in pain, they can't move. But before you decide, actually my chinchilla's got arthritis, go to your vet, because your vet is the only one that's going to be able to diagnose your chinchilla with arthritis. You can't diagnose it yourself. You have to go to a vet to actually find out whether your chinchilla has arthritis or not. And if they do have arthritis, it can be managed with pain medication. So if your chinchilla is diagnosed with arthritis, there's things that you can do to help them out. There's no cure for arthritis, but you can make sure that all their food and hay and water are easily accessible, generally on the bottom level of your cage, so they don't have to move and jump about in order to get their food. And also it might be better to have floor toys rather than hanging toys, because that way there's not so much movement. If you've got a wheel in your cage, you might want to remove the wheel, because once they've got arthritis, a wheel is going to hurt them if they try to run on it. So it's probably best to just eradicate it completely and basically have everything within easy reach of the chinchilla. And if you do have a massive cage, it might be an idea to switch them to something slightly smaller, just so they can feel comfortable and there's no chance of them injure themselves when they try to jump somewhere and miss. So yeah, that's practical things you can do to help. So some people have said that their chinchillas get a weakened immune system and they're more susceptible to things like ringworm. But if your chinchilla is always getting ringworm, it's worth having a look at your husbandry just to make sure that everything's tip top with that. But yeah, that's something that people have said their chinchillas do get. And yeah, so there's some of the ailments, common ailments that they can get as they get older. There's a whole list of other things that they can get as they get older, but generally, if your chinchilla's healthy, you may just notice their fur isn't as plush and thick as it used to be, and that they just may look a bit older, and they may stop. They may not run around as much as they used to, and they may not be as playful as they were when they were younger. They just slow down a bit. Like most animals, as they get older, they just slow down a bit. Arnie has lost some of his fur quality, definitely. He is a bit thinner than he used to be, and when he's in the cage, he doesn't really move that much. When he's out in playtime, he does like to still run around like an absolute loon, although he does take more breaks in between him going through his little running bursts. He will have a little break in the corner and just relax and sit down, basically.